Lots of big news in the last little while here, but let's start with some of the stuff going on a little closer to home. It was reported recently that the Winnipeg Jets had sent out a questionnaire to their season ticket holders, specifically inquiring about playing games in Saskatoon at the Sastel Center in hopes of getting. Now, I'm not sure how this would have worked for season ticket holders, if they would have been paid back for those seats or they would have had the option to go to Saskatoon or what. But it was something that they were investigating in hopes, because Saskatchewan doesn't have any COVID restrictions for what you can and can't do. So it was a possibility that people could have come here and gone and seen NHL games, that the Jets could have played out of here, out of a hotel room, but played games here to crowds. And in the last little while, it kind of came out that no, that wasn't going to happen. Either logistics or the fact that maybe they thought that the lack of restrictions was only temporary. But it didn't occur. Were you excited? Now, Sanjay, this is directly for you. Were you excited about the prospect of NHL games in Saskatchewan, or were you disappointed that it didn't happen? We go to Alberta reporter Sanjay.
Well, as a fan of a team without a home right now, kind of, Saskatchewan is
an old home, but you have a home
for now. Saskatchewan's a good alternative to play games in for Winnipeg and even for Calgary. They have a diehard sports fan base, as evidenced by every sporting event you've ever attended in Canada has at least one Rough Riders jersey, someone wearing at least one Rough Riders jersey in it. So a lot of diehard fans. And if you could grab that fan base, because you guys all live in Saskatchewan and none of you guys cheer for the Jets. So, if they were to kind of build that fan base, they could sell more merch, get more people maybe coming into Winnipeg to watch them, because from Saskatchewan, it's not that far. So on a Saturday night, you could come in and kind of take some revenue away from the Alberta teams and kind of the original 6 teams that are probably bigger in Saskatchewan. So I think that's a terrific idea, and I'm sad it's not going to happen. I remember when COVID first started, the Sharks, the mayor of, Saskatoon or Regina, approached the Sharks. Or was going to talk about asking the Sharks to play up in Saskatchewan, which obviously we know that didn't happen with everything that went on. But, I kind of like that they're sniffing around the NHL. Maybe it's going to lead to bigger things. Who knows down the road? But I like it. And I hope, if they were to play elsewhere, why not Saskatchewan?
Now, Adam and Ryan, I think you guys are on opposite ends of this debate. I believe, but I actually don't know Ryan's opinion here. So we'll go to Adam first, because I do know his thoughts on this one. So go ahead, Adam. What were your thoughts about this?
Well, as a Sutter brother, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink it, because it's probably going to get COVID. You bring them here. There's no restrictions. It's going to blow up. It's already blowing up in Saskatchewan. I know you're trying to take a proactive stance and try to get those games played, but you're going to a place with no restrictions, no guidelines, just if you take a rapid test, give her a $5 and you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Not the case. And it's putting, the health of the players at risk, the health of the organization at risk, the health of the public at risk, the health of the workers at risk, anyone involved at risk. Now, I got into a bit of a Twitter fight with a guy. I was like, this is absolutely a horrible idea, because everyone's going to get it. And the guy's like, oh, well, it's only vaccinated people going there, and nobody that's vaccinated is going to get it. And I shot back with, well, yesterday, 46% of the people in hospital that were hospitalized were double vaccinated. Great point, he says. But still, they're going to walk out of the hospital. Well, that's not even the case either for all of them. That's an unfair generalization, and I just think it's kind of a really irresponsible thought process in the current climate. We see what's happening all over North America and the world, and I think it's irresponsible.
Ryan, your rebuttal.
I honestly, I can't debate anything Adam said. It's all true. It would have been a big risk and could have been a big blow up of the virus, even more so than it already is. But I mean, as a hockey fan, I would have loved it to see this happen. It would have been an historic event, at least even if just they had one game out of Saskatoon. It would have been neat to see. And, there were always rumors forever about NHL coming to Saskatoon. I think it used to be like the St. Louis Blues. There was that story about them almost going to Saskatoon. I mean, they have an NHL sized arena. It's not that much. It seats pretty close to what Winnipeg seats.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they have the facilities. The debate has always been, can you actually sell out games in Saskatchewan because of the low population?
Right.
And,
What if they did like a wish they could, but they can't classic for like cities that wish they could have NHL teams, but just
So like Hartford's in there and Atlanta comes
Yeah.
back.
So
I don't think either of those cities actually wish they could have a team.
I think Hartford maybe.
Hartford is probably true.
Yeah.
oh, for sure. Quebec
It's
City.
It's interesting though, but we're seeing like a ton of games being postponed and rescheduled because of Omicron and because of restrictions specifically in Canada. But I don't know who watched football yesterday. Those are some pretty packed stadiums.
Oh, yeah.
The American NHL games are still carrying full crowds. I think it was the Oilers broadcast crew was talking about how in New York City, you okay there, Ryan? First
I'm
time
all right.
using a mic.
All right.
Okay.
Fired up.
But they were talked about how they went from a game where there was no one attending in Canada and then flew to what do you call it? Madison Square Garden, and the entire place was full of people. And it's occurring at the same time, same parts of the world. Now, I'm not saying
Different
that
mindset.
one's right and what's the other,
Yeah.
but it is problematic that way. And here in Saskatchewan at this moment, we don't have those restrictions. And the same thing, not saying it's right or wrong, but there's no restrictions. Whereas in Winnipeg and Manitoba, there are heavy restrictions right now. So it would have been beneficial to the Jets for sure.
In terms
because it
of
would have cleared
dollars.
well, more than that, dollars.
Yeah.
Cleaned up their schedule so they're not getting rammed all these games in at the end,
That
which
too,
is
yeah.
probably what's going to happen. And allowed them to kind of take advantage of the one thing that's occurring here. But that's not going to happen. I'm like with Ryan on this one. I feel like it's from a fan perspective, it would have been neat to see. But it is what it is. And they did not find it feasible for whatever reason and have moved on from there. But it would have been an interesting take here. And Saskatoon's always had this idea of dancing with the NHL, but I just don't see it. I just don't see how you benefit your league by putting a boot full of water in your mouth. Do you not have regular? Do you not have regular
vodka?
No, actually, I haven't drank since New Year's Eve. I plan on taking and that puts some, December is usually a pretty big month that wise. And,
to cleanse.
Well, you gain a couple pounds from all the unhealthy eating too. So,
Yeah.
I'm taking January completely off and might stem into February too.
Good for you.
Once again, you don't have a normal cup though. That's the conversation is just
more
like,
water in it.
haven't you washed a regular cup for this whole time? You complain about your dishwasher, but you still got to do dishes at it.
It's all he has left.
doesn't even
Well,
like
the Gus
the
boot.
dishwasher.
He's like, I guess I got to drink some of this.
No, it's the biggest cup I could find. So
Next time
I don't
Adam
wanna
does
keep
his
running
Willie
up and
ways
down.
and he's like stepping around dishes on the floor. All piled up.
knocking them over from behind as he's walking. Despite Saskatoon trying to get an NHL team that's always been dancing with it, I just don't think it's going to happen. But that's not even the biggest news to kind of occur in the last little while. Recently, it came out that Evander Kane, while doing a stint with the AHL, the San Jose Sharks AHL farm team, that
Dolphins.
Well, that he'd done something, and I'm not 100% sure on this, to break COVID protocol, but basically did something to enter Canada. And in doing so, broke COVID protocol with the team, and the
flew-
the team.
Sorry to
go ahead.
interrupt, but
No,
from what I
please.
remember,
No,
it
please.
was he went on a flight without permission, or at least this is what the Sharks are claiming. And then he was supposed to return to the AHL team earlier than he did, and he didn't show up till later.
Oh, okay.
I believe that's
And-
what happened.
They're using that as grounds to essentially revoke his contract, and I think he was making $7 million a year for 3 more years. I want to say maybe longer.
So that much?
Yep. He's making $7
Wow.
million for sure. Yeah. And so they've terminated his contract effective immediately. Now he has filed a grievance saying that is not fair or possible. So there might be some changes that occur here, whether it's either a payout or a penalty or some type. Personally, if the Sharks are punished they signed him, they knew what they were getting. And I feel like they shouldn't get scot-free off on this either. But right now he's essentially a free agent, And go ahead, Ryan. Cut me
I
off
was just
again.
going to say,
Get
out
out
of
your
everything
system.
he's done, like it seemed like the smallest thing that he actually, like they were actually able to find a loophole to terminate the contract. Like you would think him faking a vaccination passport would be the one that would get him booted, but no, it's the fact that he got on a flight when he wasn't supposed to and then was late showing up. It's kind of
Well, you know what? They needed something, and you know what? It was a long time coming. I mean, it's one thing after another with this guy, and it's nauseating.
He's already off of cap friendly. I don't even see his name on here.
They should show it under the terminated contracts. He must be like the top search thing up there. Because he would have been. But I guess the contract is terminated by
it's terminated, so he's no longer he would no longer be under there.
If you can find the player, you should be able to see the list, but this is boring, so I'll just move on.
Yeah,
anyways.
keep going on.
So the thing is that essentially now he's a free agent, so he's available to be signed until something comes with this. Now, if he files a grievance, potentially, if he files a grievance, something happens. I'm not sure how that all works out or plays out. If he gets paid, if he automatically gets his contract back or something, I have no idea. But it sounds like he's going to be a cheap option for a couple of teams. One of the teams is the Oilers. We'll get to that in a little bit. But do you think right now that any NHL team should be looking at him for his services? And not saying which team, I don't need that because we'll talk about that later. I want to know why you think he should be picked up or why you think he shouldn't be picked up. So try to stay on topic, you guys, especially you, Sanjay.
Yeah, I just don't think it's worth the risk at this point. How many chances are you going to get? You know, this is what third, fourth, fifth strike now against him. And, you know, you go back to his time in Winnipeg and there's talk like his teammates didn't like him, like Bufflin was throwing his gear in the shower at practice. And, you know, he burned that bridge and he came to the Sharks and just hasn't been going well. So for me, it's just not worth the risk. And it's not like he's, you know, like you look at the NFL and Antonio Brown, and that guy is like Hall of Fame level talent wide receiver. So I understand why people took the risk, and the Buccaneers won a Super Bowl with them last year. Not saying that they should have done it either, but and look what happened to them this year. You know, it blew up in their face mightily. So you're just asking for like a ticking time bomb if you sign this guy, because he's shown time and time again that he has other interests outside of hockey. You know, he doesn't live to play hockey; he plays hockey to live, and it's just not worth the risk.
Who wants to go next?
I agree. I wouldn't take the risk. Especially, you know, if you're a team that's contending and you have great locker room chemistry, you don't want to disrupt that. And bringing him in with his reputation, I just don't know if that's something you want to do, but guaranteed there's going to be a team that picks him up because he is talented. He's, I would say, one of the better power forwards in the league. And he can put up the points still. And teams are going to be willing to take a risk on that, even if it's just for like a very short-term contract, like just the rest of this season. You know, you bring him in for a short little while and it's basically a tryout for him and see how he gels with the team. Someone's going to do it. I know they are.
Yeah, we're talking about a guy who's at 56 games, had, I believe it was 49 points, was -1 on an awful, awful Sharks team last year. So he was still producing at quite the high level. And I think if the Sharks had probably been willing to eat some of this, they probably would have been able to move him at some point. But 3 years of dead cap space is never a fun issue for anyone to have. So honestly, waiting for him to make a mistake was a much easier out for this team. I do think that if you look at the history of hockey, talented players always end up somewhere, whether you like them or not, whether you think they're good people or not, whether you think they're bombs or not, they always end up somewhere. You make the comment there, you said a strong team, why would you bring him in? Don't you have to be a strong team to bring him in, to be honest with you, more than like a weak team or a fragile team?
Well, I know you didn't want to talk specific teams, but you hear about the Oilers.
Yeah, no, I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk
for...
about the Oilers right now. Why can't you just follow the order of the episode, Ryan?
Well, a team that's struggling, that's on the
about.
bubble, that needs a shake-up, that needs
something.
An insertion of some offense. That could maybe be a team that would do it. I'm not saying that a contending team wouldn't bring him in, but me personally, if I was the GM of a team, and the locker room chemistry is fantastic and we're rolling, do you want to risk ruining what you have? Whereas if I'm a bubble team and missing the playoffs is not an option, you're not in the rebuild, you're pushing for a playoff spot, or it's a complete failure and my job's on the line here. Yeah, maybe I do want to bring in some guy who's going to score me, 30 goals or whatever Evander Kane gets, and, take the risk that, maybe he doesn't gel well with the locker room, and just give him a short-term contract. And at least then he's only a headache for, a quarter of the season. So I would assume more that a team like that would bring him in. Plus, you need the cap space, but the nice thing for a team is it's just money. Right? You're not having to trade for them. You don't have to trade first round draft picks or prospects or players or anything like that. It's just straight up money and cap space. That's it. And that's also enticing for teams.
That is a huge point, especially right now when teams are getting tight to the cap from signing their players and so forth. And essentially you're going to get him at a better discount than he would have been normally. So it leads itself to a couple other conversations here. So as you said, you think the Oilers are a good fit for him? I'll go with Adam first because Adam's got Oiler gear all over himself.
I just I don't think the Oilers are hurting for offense. That's I don't
know. Mikko Koskinen disagrees with you, buddy.
Well, the thing is, I think they're hurting for goaltending, and let's talk about the first 3 shots every game. Then they're playing from behind. That's a problem. Their offense hasn't been that bad. Look, like New Jersey, it was a 6-5 game. Rangers, what was the score there? They're scoring and they're getting depth scoring. Just not enough.
I don't agree with that. I think that, and this isn't my comment, but Dustin Nielsen, who does the Nielsen show in Edmonton, made a comment. He's like, if you're mad about goaltending, if you're upset because the team's got bad goaltending issues, that's fair. If you're upset that it's got roster issues, that's fair. If you're upset at coaching and deployment, that's fair. If you're upset at GM and how they built it, that's fair. There's I think it's just a convalescence of all these other issues at once, some big, some small, but all together at the same time. And essentially that's a huge part. But I do think scoring has been an issue on this team outside of that top 6. And they're having some guys pop up, but not enough. Your bottom scoring that you're seeing is from guys because other people are injured, not because they're regular players. And having someone who can put up 20 some goals is a huge change to this team. It would legitimately make that second line or potentially even that third line dangerous. And that's something they don't really have all the time right now. The Yamamoto, Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl line is getting caved in a lot of times. Yeah. They're mixing it up all the time, but guys are injured. Nuge can't score this year. So I get why they're looking at it. Would I be happy with that? No. I don't know that I would be. I would probably not be happy with that signing because I feel like
it's risk.
It's risk. It's a bad locker room probably already if there's issues. And I just don't think anyone's really strong enough. And what are the odds he's going to make it the whole season before you have another issue, even though you have only half a season left?
Yeah.
What about the Boston Bruins? They're kind of on the bubble there, and their depth isn't the greatest. Taylor Hall hasn't had the best year ever. They lost David Krejci as their second line center. Maybe that's a team that could use an influx of scoring in their depth. And plus they have a very veteran team. If there's a team that thinks, they have enough veteran presence to be able to handle someone like that, it maybe be the Boston Bruins. Plus he plays like a Boston style game too, right? Like the big heavy game.
I don't know. They're starting to get the Taylor Hall curse, I think. And
not quite. They're not unless they somehow win the draft lottery and get first.
But another thing is you've already got a Marchand. You already got a guy that's getting you in a lot of other garbage. And how would those two mesh? Should be interesting.
I think that's the point. How would those two mesh?
Yeah.
Marchand would take a shit, that's for sure.
It would be interesting. It'd be fun to watch.
I was just looking at the standings. They get along looking at bubble teams, and Boston was maybe the one that stood out to me as a team that they're going to push for the playoffs. They don't want to miss. They're and their window's closing.
What about a team like Pittsburgh? Crosby leading that team, you find a winger for him for one more year to see what they can do. And
they're a little strapped right now. They just had to make a trade so that they could essentially bring Malkin back. Right.
Okay.
So I don't know that they got that movement available for them.
Well, and would Brian Burke really want that on his team? I don't think so.
Truculence. He's got truculence. Adam.
Not at all. Not at all.
Well, he's a power forward.
He's a power forward, man. He plays a heavy game.
But honestly, off the ice, he's a truculent asshole. Like he's not the type of player that it's just it would be really difficult for me as a GM to be like, yeah, let's bring him in. If we can get him, let's get him.
But like Sanjay made the point, it's the Antonio Brown gamble. You're going to take a guy, and if he can work to some degree in your system or be motivated because everyone's been against him to play really well for X amount, he is potentially, you could be the one who reaps the benefit. It's high risk, high reward. Right?
Look at Tony DeAngelo, right? Like he had the bad reputation. Carolina made the move for him, and he's flourishing with Carolina this season.
You know what he's also not doing? Talking all the time.
Maybe
like
he learned
Tony
his lesson.
DeAngelo was always putting out podcasts, making comments, getting in trouble, getting punched by his goaltender, but he's not really doing that. You're not hearing anything from him this time.
Hopefully he learned his lesson. Like, yeah, I think he knew that if he kept doing that shit, it'd be over for him. And I would hope that Evander Kane would know this is his last chance. So, hopefully he would be on his best behavior.
Oh, come on. Wasn't San Jose his last chance though? Like, come on.
Well, and the thing when he went to San Jose, I remember them just praising Evander Kane when he first came on board on his character. And I think he was on his best behavior when he first went over. But after a while, you start to get comfortable and you start to revert to like probably who you really are. And then, okay, no, get out of here. And now all of his teammates want him gone, right? But I mean, if you're only going to bring him in, let's say you sign him just for the remainder of this season, then you can get rid of him in the offseason. Like he gives you your playoff push. But like I said, I wouldn't do it as a GM, especially if I'm concerned at all about, wrecking what might already be a fantastic locker room chemistry. But I know there's going to be a GM who does it to give them that extra push in the playoffs.
Well, look at like Sean Avery. He was kind of the same thing, right? Like he went to Dallas and he was, in New York, he was kind of doing his thing. And then he went to Dallas and then he left Dallas and went back to New York. And then he was fine for a little while. So
he didn't leave Dallas. He got
booted out of Dallas.
Yeah. Say that brought him back.
Yeah. So like maybe like he just needs to find his like team or his market, like you said, like Boston or someone with a strong leadership core. I mean, I don't see it honestly in the NHL. I see it more overseas in the KHL. I think that's where he's going to go because he could probably make more money there.
Tax free.
And he could play a couple seasons
and he needs money. Right. Yeah. So,
well, his bankruptcy thing's over. It's already settled. It's been withdrawn. They came to an agreement, but his contract being canceled, that cannot be an easy thing to deal. Like that is just money tens of millions of dollars gone, right?
Like so he doesn't know anything anymore. Like it was just he declared bankruptcy and
I said they've reached an agreement. I didn't say that he doesn't owe anything. Right. That could be a payment thing. That could be hey, you've paid us X amount by this deadline, so we're not bugging you anymore. Like there's lots of things that occur around that. Look at the Coyotes arena issue. They got thrown up to the Wolves because they owed $1 million on time.
It's like Michael Scott from The Office.
I declare bankruptcy.
I declare bankruptcy.
And Baron's not laughing because he's never watched The Office.
Michael, you need to watch The Office.
You gotta watch it. It's good stuff.
Oh, it's great. It's a fantastic show.
Good.
Will do.
And you need to start
never
at the
will.
first season. Do not skip the first season.
Everyone's told me to skip the first season. Actually, everyone says the first season's not worth it.
No, it is. It's very worth it.
I would tell people if they watch Parks and Rec not to bother with most of the first season. It's not very good, but the rest of the show is great.
First season's usually the worst, right? They're getting their feet wet and
they don't know the direction of the show, right?
Yeah.
The show
finally
sitting in their stride.
Podcast,
Friends was the same thing. Watching the first season of Friends was just weird because they're in the coffee shop like the entire season pretty much. They never left it. Every scene was in that coffee shop. It was weird.
Also not a show I've watched.
What?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I could see
Not
that.
that great.
See, the thing was, is like I couldn't get Friends on TV when, like, growing up, so never watched it. And the same with what's the other show? There's a couple shows like that, but like I could get Seinfeld, so I watched Seinfeld.
Scrubs.
Tim the Toolman Taylor. I watched Scrubs some degree.
Yeah, I like Scrubs a lot.
Yeah, it's good-ish. I don't know. It went on a little long too.
Now we're talking
Anyways.
TV. I just
Actually,
watched
you
the
know,
last
the
season
8th
of Cobra
season,
Kai.
the
I love it.
The 8th season was fantastic. With Scrubs, did a great job of bringing it back and wrapping it up. And
They
then
have
they
a
did.
podcast now, I think, or something too, don't they?
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. See, you guys don't listen to
Scrubs
stuff.
rewatch. So is Zach and Donald. It's my ringtone.
It's weird how many shows that we watched when we were younger are just back on TV as one-offs or something else, like new Dexter, new Sex in the City, new all these things. Sanjay is such a Samantha.
No way. I would definitely be
Did you guys
Gary.
see the trailer for the new Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Yes, looks good.
No.
I
have
have no
no-
idea.
They're
what
just
you're
bringing
talking
back
about.
everything.
Yeah.
You know,
They can't come
Uncle
up with anything
Phil's dead, right? Like,
It's all new
Oh,
cast.
it's all new cast,
Yeah,
it's kind of like
and
how they
it's,
did the
it's
Wonder
directed
Years.
by Will Smith.
and it's more serious. It's got a more serious tone to
It looks like it. Yeah.
Well, that's good because I think as soon as he went to university, the show lost all its direction, like pretty bad. There's only like 4 seasons of Fresh Prince, isn't there? It's not very long.
no,
4 or 5 seasons.
I thought it was quite long, like 10.
No,
I don't
Wasn't it?
know.
I'm gonna go check right now. No,
All right,
I'm checking.
you look-
You guys
you
talk
look
about
it
hockey.
up.
I don't
I
believe
can't
you.
wait till this show comes back in 20 years. They're like Delayed Offside rebranded 2.0. And then they'll be
I
like,
really
"Oh, these
thought
guys
that it was a long.
We'll be in front of
long-
us.
It's
studio
longer.
franchise.
It's longer than I thought. It's not as long as you thought.
Okay, how much?
8.
Sanjay, what's your bet?
7.
Okay, and does anybody want to take an over or under on Sanjay? Keeping in mind how good he does at these things.
I'll take an.
I would go over because I said 10.
I'll go under.
It's under. It's 6 seasons.
Oh,
Really?
Oh, I won.
Adam also hasn't paid up his last one where he.
No,
hasn't
I got to
worn the
wear that
Calgary
Flames jersey still.
That's right.
That's right.
I gotta
Yeah.
wear the Flames jersey. I don't have.
If they ever play again, you can wear it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, back on topic. So Ryan doesn't have to edit all this out again. We'll do the hand wave so Ryan knows where to edit.
No, this is
everything.
fantastic.
No, you
I
keep
love
it. Did you watch the last episode, Baron?
Yeah, Adam and I were all over the place, and it was our
Oh,
most watched
man.
episode this season.
I'll be
so maybe
honest,
we're on
I-
something.
It'll probably draw. Yeah, maybe that's better. No, I'll be honest. I've fallen off with watching these episodes when I miss.
I live them every week.
It's just literally you guys making fun of whoever's not here. Same like when I'm here and you're not. It's just us making fun of the other people.
Well, who are we
So,
gonna make fun of today?
I think still you because you tried to get out of it.
Yeah.
I have a legitimate excuse.
As your nose bleeds. I was fine.
It was like, guys, I might not be able to make it. I have a migraine. Okay, well, let's do it tomorrow.
Cough.
Okay, I can make it.
I can make it. Let me do this, guys. I can.
Well, I
make
didn't
it.
want to. I didn't want you guys. Okay, you should be like thanking me for powering through this episode for
Thank
you
you,
guys.
Sanjay.
You're welcome, guys. I didn't want you guys to suffer and hold your plans for tomorrow and do it tomorrow. So
Yes,
welcome.
plans. So many.
Hey,
So many plans.
this is gonna be a really bad joke, but you need to just go gluten free. I think because you keep getting migraine.
I wasn't sure where you were going at first because I was like, this
No.
doesn't make any sense. But yeah,
No.
it came together at the end.
okay.
Yeah, it was great.
I'll accept it.
I thought the intro was the punchline, which is why I was like, this is terrible. Yeah, the end paid off.
Thank you.
Now,
Do you just have a bunch of those rattling around in your head, Adam?
Man, I come up with them right on the spot. It's improv.
There you go.
He has a
Another one
We
right
website.
now.
need to cut
Go.
that
Do
part.
another one right now.
no, that should be the intro. You
Yeah.
should actually have it on a soundboard where it's like, I come up with it on the spot. It's improv. And then Adam will say something where you say, we'll press the button and be like, I come up with it on the spot. It's improv. Just for everything.
It's improv.
It's improv. I don't want to do the other part of that one and repeat words because that could just sound dirty, but we'll just roll with this one. Now, according to the sheet that I was reading, Ryan Pilon, I believe, feels the Carolina Hurricanes made a bunch of terrible moves in the offseason, but haven't sucked because of it, and is kind of shocked for that. So, Ryan, I thought that deserved a little bit of delving. Now I know what move I think they should have made that would have been helpful, or at least would have been a smart move. But why do you think they made some questionable moves this offseason? Whether they turned out to be or not, but that you thought were questionable?
I like, honestly, I thought they had some really questionable moves in the offseason. Biggest one was trading away or letting Nedeljkovic walk away, their young goaltender who had an amazing season. I thought he was going to be their goaltender of the future. And then bringing in Freddie Anderson, who had 2 very subpar seasons and injury-riddled seasons. And I was quite shocked by that. And then they let Reimer walk as well, who played really well for them as well. And brought in Ranta, who was also injury-riddled. So I was very surprised by those moves, and it's turned out well for them. All of a sudden, Freddie Anderson's had a bounce-back season, and he's been healthy, and he's up there in the Vezina conversation. So I don't know how it always seems to work out for Carolina. They got like the lucky rabbit's foot or whatever, but it's worked out for them. Nedeljkovic is still playing quite well for Detroit. So maybe in the long term, end up being a bad move, but in the short term, especially when they're pushing for a Stanley Cup, is basically what they're hoping for. I mean, this team is the top team in the league in points percentage right now. That's got to be the goal. Freddie Anderson's probably your better bet right now.
I'm surprised you didn't mention Dougie Hamilton.
I was surprised too. Yeah.
Right. But Dougie Hamilton, I could see because they couldn't afford him. Right. Although really, when you look at the contracts they gave out to some of these other players, they probably could have moved some money around to keep Dougie Hamilton. So yeah, that was another one too. But I wasn't as surprised about Dougie Hamilton because I saw that coming.
Okay.
Well, you go ahead, talk about Dougie Hamilton.
I think he was legit the best free agent defenseman on the market. He was someone who had been very successful there, seemed to fit in well with the organization. So I'm surprised they didn't actually try to keep him and let him go. I really
Maybe
thought
they didn't have any museums in Carolina. So
I know that was a big reason. It's weird, all these great defensemen that just leave Calgary.
Yeah.
Him, Adam
Fox.
But whatever.
He left Carolina as well. Adam Fox left Carolina as well.
That's true. That's true. He did. He really did.
Yeah.
But
you're right, though. Dougie Hamilton is a big one too.
The goaltending is a good point. Nedeljkovic is been really good.
And Freddie Anderson was a risk, big time.
Yes, he was, and so was Ranta. But they have pulled together. They do seem to play really well together. They play in a very strong structure. And I think the truth is, if you watch them, they're a hardworking team. Like, they work hard every shift. Guys aren't screwing around. Guys aren't cheating. It's honest work, but it also is high end talent to some degree. Guys like Aho, for example, they can really shoot the pill. And if they're working hard like that, there's always more opportunities. They've really solidified that back end as well. And D'Angelo, whether you like him or not,
there's another one. That was another big one.
Point producing, exactly. But there's an example of how a risk is paid off for someone. So it is interesting.
That trade for Ethan Bears turned out really well for them.
Yeah. It is. What's weird is I hear so much different things about that, because Oilers fans are like, he's playing top pairing minutes, and then somebody else is like, he's playing third pairing minutes. I think he's like, honestly, I always like Bear. Bear's good. But I don't know what his role is. Is he the top pairing guy or is he the third pairing guy? Because I keep hearing different stuff all the time. What are you going to say, Adam?
I really like Bear too. Cutting back to the D'Angelo stuff, it could very well be that he's scared shitless of Rod Brindamore.
Yeah, Brindamore's a big guy.
Yeah, and Brindamore being like, we're not putting up with your garbage at all, or you're going to answer to me.
Well, he lost millions of dollars too, so I think that was a part of it. It was like, you got to kind of wake up and get stuff together. Yeah. Brindamore is also like a physical specimen. Like, the guy is legitimately always in great shape. Lots of teachers that I've worked with used to be out at Wilcox, talked about how after football or even hockey, they'd arrive back and he would go and just ride the bike for like hours. Like, he's just an endurance machine. And he's always been very strong that way. And one of the things was, when he came into Carolina, he had better fitness than some of the players. And that's been one of those things that's really been pushed to, is like, how fit are you? Like, even as an athlete, how fit are you? And so I think they're hardworking. They have great endurance, and they just play the crap out of you. And a 50-50 puck battle, I think they're going to come up with it. Do I think Carolina is the best team in the NHL? I don't know. I think that they're definitely in that conversation, but do I think they're going to walk with the Stanley Cup? I don't know.
Nah, Calgary just had that recent road trip where they got killed by all the Southern teams like Florida, Tampa Bay, and Carolina. I'm watching all three of those games. Carolina, well, yes, they did beat Calgary quite easily. They impressed me the least. To be honest with you, Tampa and Florida impressed the hell out of me. And all I could think was, thank God the Flames aren't in that division, because
I hate the
that
Atlantic
division
division.
is like the division of death, because you got to beat both those teams to make it just to the Eastern Final. And that's going to be tough. I mean, Leafs have a solid team. I'm not going to, degrade them or say anything negative towards them. They have a really good team, but I don't know if they're going to win a playoff round because they're going to have to play Tampa or Florida. For their sake, I hope they play Florida, because I think they're less prepared for the playoffs than a team that's back-to-back cup champions. But I think they're going to, it's going to be a hell of a first round series. Whoever they play, it's going to be a tough 7-gamer, I bet.
Yeah, it sucks that like if the Leafs somehow finish, I don't know, third or fourth or whatever in the league, and they still have to play Tampa Bay first round, it's just, I hate the whole playoff format the way it's currently set up. I looked up the time on ice. Ethan Bear, according to time on ice per game, he's a bottom pairing defenseman for Carolina.
So that's crazy, right? Like, and then I don't mean to knock him, because I think the guy's legit and he's at least a second pairing defenseman.
Yeah.
But like, who talks about a third pairing defenseman and how amazing they are? But he has been good this year. He really has been.
And it's probably just because he came from Edmonton, right? And Fogle hasn't really lived up to the hype for Edmonton as well as, people were hoping. And so people are pissed that you gave up Ethan Bear, who is a good defenseman, even if he is playing third pairing minutes for Carolina, for a guy who's, and I don't understand what's going on with Fogle, because you look at his time in Carolina and he had fantastic defensive metrics and numbers. And I don't know, maybe there's just no third pairing centerman that he can play off of, maybe.
Right. Fogle, he battles hard every shift he plays. He honestly, if they were smart, they would push him up to the second line, or he'd be on the second of the top line, and you'd move Hyman to the second line and Nuge would center the third.
Spread it out. Yeah.
That is not what they're doing. And because it's not helping. So he's having to drive a line by himself, and essentially that middle and that third spot have rotated all year. So how he's going to find consistency? But he does work hard every shift. He's got a lot of those Hyman-like qualities where he works hard every shift and so forth. He just hasn't had the payoff yet. And I think that will come. But I mean, you can't tell me that the fact he hasn't done it hasn't been a letdown for fans or for the GM. But I do think, man, you watch him play, Fogle's noticeable. He hits, he does everything really well. So
I completely echo that sentiment. And I think that like he's playing with Cassian on the other wing too. They drive a pretty hard forecheck and they bring a lot of energy. But yeah, they need
no goals.
Yeah, I think they need a third line center. Like
that's it. That's
the guy that's covering the most part,
exactly
most area of the ice. And if you don't have someone there to be defensively responsible and push the puck the other way, then it's tough.
This isn't to hammer on your team at all, Ryan, but I do think Sanjay's point is kind of interesting about Toronto. Like, even when they're on fire and they're doing so good, they have a hell of a road to travel through.
Yep.
And it really echoes back to last year, where there was such a clear path to the cup for Canadian teams.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard not to even look back and say, like, that team was probably to some degree better. And I just think, like, man, that stings, because like some of the defensive issues you're having with players like Hall, those weren't there last year. Spezza was good last year. I honestly think things went kind of problematic for them when Simmons got hurt. I just remember how good he was doing, and then it was like you never heard of him positively again. But man, like that road got so much harder after last year. But maybe that's what they need too. Maybe they need like a hard road. Maybe they need to be the underdog for every series.
Maybe
that's what this team needs.
They've been the underdog, they've lost. They've been the favorite, they've lost. Like at some point, they've got to win.
If they lose this year, do you think Dubas is done?
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think he's done. I think he's going to have to give up on his core four. I think he's going to have to realize we can't have three guys making over $10 million. And you're going to have to get rid of at least one of those contracts and bring in more depth, because you look at what they did with Zach Hyman leaving. He was a big loss. Obviously he's a great player, but the players they were able to bring in and the stuff they were able to do with just saving that what is he making, 5.5 mil for Edmonton, something like that.
It's 5 mil, but yeah,
5 mil. Spreading that out over the roster, they were able to bring in Michael Bunting, who's adequately replaced him, and then they were able to bring in David Kampf, who has created this with him and Kasha. All those three alone are making less than Hyman, and it's been huge. Like, I actually disagree. I think they're actually better this year for the most part. I don't think they're having some defensive issues at 5-on-5, but their special teams are much better this season than last season, which it's been a struggle for a while. And they're still 5-on-5. Their numbers are good. Their defensive numbers aren't as good as last year, but they're still good. So
that stat on Marner on the power play, 0 goals for like 99 games.
Yeah.
Blew my
Honestly,
mind. I would have never guessed that. I would have never bet that. I would have nothing. Like, the guy was so fire.
Yeah.
And I don't know what changed there.
He doesn't shoot. He's always looking for the pass. He's holding on. And they'll whip that puck around. And then as soon as he gets on a stick, he holds it. And then he's looking for a play. He's trying to be too creative, not simple enough. He's not dumbing it down. So I don't know what they do with him on that power play. But I mean, the power play is click. Like, remember how bad it was at the end of last year? It was laughable, and that really hurt them in the playoffs against Montreal. And their penalty kill was always bad. It's top 10. Their offense at 5-on-5 is top 10. It's just their defense isn't quite up there, but it's still above average. So I mean, if they can get a second pairing defenseman, I'm pretty happy with the setup. But yeah, you still have to beat Tampa and Florida or Boston, which is usually a tough out in the playoffs. The Atlantic's tough. So, but I mean, you got to beat them at some point.
So if you're the GM and it's trade deadline, what are you going for?
Top 4 defenseman. Right shot to replace Hall.
Anyone in mind?
Not at the top of my head. I'm not even sure who's all available. I know Chychrun's name's out there. I know Sherratt's name's been out there. Potentially maybe one of those guys. I'd have to see who's all available.
Isn't Sherratt lefty though?
I have no idea. I haven't looked into this at all. So
fair enough. We were talking, you guys talked a bit about this because the Oilers slide was kind of in full flux at last time, but it's still continuing. It's just been postponed essentially. So there's an announcement tomorrow. There's a special meeting tomorrow.
It's an addressing the media. Yeah.
Ken Holland's addressing the media essentially. There's already fake rumors that Evander Kane will be signed and then he's already in Canada, which makes no sense because here's a guy who avoids COVID policy coming to the country that has the strictest COVID policies. It makes 0 sense. So I don't see him signing here. But that in mind, do you think if you replace the coach, because man, the problem for me is when the Oilers were 16-5, people were calling for the coach to be fired. And now that the record's substantially terrible, more people are calling for the coach to be fired. But do you think that that's the move? Should they fire this coach? And if so, who do they replace him with?
No.
Sanjay, I like that head shake. Let's hear what you got.
No, you don't fire Tippett. He is a quality coach. He's exactly what the Oilers need. He's no nonsense. How many times before you realize it's not the coach, it's the players? That locker room, since, when they had Hall and Eberle and the Russian
Cogliano,
Gagne,
Gilbert, Nilsson.
All those guys. Yakupov, I forgot his name. Yakupov.
Nailed it.
Yeah, thank you. Good one. You always hear rumors about the players not trying in practice. There was talk that they would make fun of players if they try too hard in practice, some of the young kids. So it's just a talk.
But Sanjay, we're talking about practice.
Yeah, practice, Sanjay.
Practice. Come on, practice.
I know.
Not the game.
A game.
I know. It's hard to believe. But they took that to heart, and it's just I think they need more veteran leadership or something to go along with the coach's message. It's just they're too young. They don't have anyone that can come in the locker room and be pissed off after a loss. They need people that, aren't just caring about their stats. You gotta sometimes not. I mean, I it's hard to say because if McDavid and Draisaitl aren't scoring, they're not winning. So depth is an issue as well. There just seems to be a lot of issues going on. And I think firing the coach and bringing in a new message isn't the right play at this time. I think he's a quality coach. And, I think, I don't know, maybe a shakeup or something, but I just think firing the coach again, how many coaches would this be and who's out there that you would even bring in, right? If you have a candidate that's maybe Babcock, someone that's won a cup before and someone that's kind of more of a general, maybe you bring him in. I don't know. I just don't think firing the coach is the right move because they've done it before.
Steve Lansky was on a Low Tide and he made a similar comment. He's like, after you've lost to Chicago in the play-in round and after you lost to Winnipeg, how could you look at that roster and say, I need to add to this as opposed to I need to change this? And I think that comment kind of sticks with me to some degree. But I am curious for other people's solutions here. So let's go to Adam because he was saying no to Babcock, although deep down, I think he'd be excited if Mike Babcock was the head coach.
God, how dare you?
Good old Saskatchewan boy.
Ugh.
He probably has a cabin at your lake,
We're gonna play
No, Northern PA is where his cabin is. Saskatoon.
Oh yeah, he's got the expensive lake.
We're gonna play Devon Shore first line center minutes.
Tippett does that already, dude. Your joke's pointless.
Adam, you have to come up with a list of the most hardworking. You got to rank the hardworking members of Delayed Offside. That's your job for next episode. So,
okay.
Last I like place, that one. That was
least hardest working, Ryan Pilon.
He's literally wearing pajamas for the podcast.
I'm ready to sleep, man. Just get me to bed. When's this over?
But honestly, I agree with Sanjay. You don't change the coach. It's not the coach's fault. I think Dave Tippett actually has them playing more responsibly than they have in the past in terms of defensive hockey and even making responsible plays and finding a guy to play it to get it out of their zone. That was always a real struggle for them. What I think needs to happen is they need, number one, a reliable goaltender that is going to make the first 5 saves, 10 saves, perhaps get a shutout at some point. But they also need a healthy goaltender. Mike Smith can go on a roll. Mike Smith can't this year, hasn't. Why? He's injured. He comes back, he plays, he gets injured again. He's going to be back. He'll play some more. But man, you're sitting there and you're like, oh God, please don't get injured. And that is the number one need right now. In order to win, they need that first save. They need it. And you could see, it's it pops the balloon immediately. Players' body language on the bench. It's like, God damn it, we're playing from behind again. They're so used to playing from behind. It's not, and I'm so used to watching it. It's nauseating. In the weigh-ins, it's a constant and on the first 2 minutes, they scored. The Oilers are playing from behind again. It's nauseating. That is a number one need. It's got nothing to do with defense. It's got everything to do with making stops that should be stopped.
Do you think the Oilers picks and prospects are in play to get a goalie? Because they don't have much to give up, right? With their depth being so thin. So you look to the farm and you look at draft picks. Could their first and maybe a Dylan Holloway or the guy that they took that was playing on the World Juniors?
Borquist.
Is he?
Yeah, Borgo. There we go.
Yeah, is he in play?
So Dave Tippett's already come out and said he's not really interested in moving the first overall pick because right now the team isn't good enough for him to give up that pick. In other words, it's too high of a draft pick for you to toss it away. But it's problematic because if you don't have success this season, you're in shit. You know what I mean? So, but he's saying it isn't. They do have some depth, like Carter Savoy, Raphael Lavoie are both producing in their respective leagues. But I mean, it's still at the same point. It's that issue's there.
And you do have tending like goaltender depth in Skinner coming up, but how good he's going to be at the NHL level, and we've seen him improve quite drastically from last year when he played like one NHL game, got his first win, right? He's shone a bit.
Yeah, but he's also let in the first goal a couple times too.
Yep,
So
not as much
as
the other two, but he hasn't played as much either. So,
Ryan, what are your thoughts?
Let's see what I see in year 3. So, I mean, if they don't make the playoffs, he's probably gone. Do I think it's his fault? Probably not. Baron, you were sharing in the our Twitter messages that the Oilers are one of the most injury riddled teams this season. And I mean, that plays a huge part. If you don't have all the players that you've acquired to help you become a great team, if they're all on the IR, then it's tough to win. So, I mean, that's an issue. And then the goaltending has fallen off big time, and Tippett can't really help with that. That doesn't fall on him. So I don't think it necessarily is his fault. Although the criticism I will give to him is he doesn't seem to be very willing to adapt or try new things. Like, I mean, you guys have said forever, play Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on the third line, spread out the offense. But he always just goes back to the well of putting Draisaitl and McDavid together on the same line whenever he's in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, try something new. Like, if you're already in a spiral, you're losing. Like, what's the difference if you try something? If it doesn't work, well, at least you tried it. So I wonder if he's a bit old school in that sense. Like, Babcock used to be really frustrating for me in that he refused to try different things and adapt and change. So, you know, I wouldn't say that he's completely blameless here. But I mean, you can't forget too that like it wasn't that long ago we were talking about the Oilers being one of the top Canadian or one of the top teams in the league. Like it feels forever ago, but it really wasn't that long ago that they were, you know, 1 or 2 in the league in points percentage. So, you know, they can turn this around. Like, I think they're a good enough team to make the playoffs as is. So, I mean, if I was Holland, I'd still try to stick it out for a bit longer. I'd try to see what I could get for a goaltender, because I do think their goaltending is not good enough. If you can bring in Marc-Andre Fleury, I think that would solve a lot of issues. They're not a very good defensive team. They haven't been all year, even when they were really good. But at least when you have a good goaltender that can kind of, you know, put a Band-Aid on that. Yeah. So get that. See if you can get a third line center. See what you can do to try to fix the team, because you know what your issues are. And then if that doesn't work and you end up missing the playoffs, Tippett's gone.
The problem because, well, Tippett's in the last year of his contract anyway, so I'm starting to think more and more he's done no matter what. But man, see, like the problem becomes you're like if you have draft picks, you're plugging a hole, but you're asking guys to plug like 3 or 4 holes. Third line center, better defensive play, goaltending. You don't have enough draft picks to ever do all of those things. So you really can address one of those problems now and then hopefully fix the rest in the offseason. And they've made some questionable decisions, and I think that those are biting them to some degree.
Well, it's crazy like how much
they
money
haven't been healthy.
Yeah. Like we talked about before going into in the offseason, how much money Holland finally had at his disposal.
Yep. And
it was the first time he could actually put his real fingerprints on this team. And I was very curious as to what he would do. And I think he made some great moves. And then I think he made some very questionable moves, and not all those questionable moves have been completely bad. Like Duncan Keith has played quite well, but he's still overpaid. You know, like he's being played as a fourth line or a number 4 defenseman, where if he was being paid, if he was playing as a third line defenseman, then at least he'd be worth the contract. But he's playing as a fourth line defenseman, so he's way overpaid, and that's a lot of additional dollars that could have gone elsewhere. That could have been your third line center right there.
They also tied up a 2nd round draft pick with him to prevent him from retiring, right? So there's lots of other problems around that as well.
Right,
for sure.
Right. They brought in Cody Ceci.
I would say
he's been terrible.
You know what?
Cody Ceci's been surprisingly good, man.
Yeah, that deep pairing has been very good. I've really liked playing them.
It's decent.
I think it's okay, but I actually think Cody Ceci has been rather valued as a defenseman. His analytics are actually decent. He'll have a bad game or a bad play here and there, but honestly, he's not even in the top 3 for Oilers defensive issues. So he's probably one of our best defensemen outside of Nurse. Outside of Nurse, he probably is our best defenseman, actually.
And like Bouchard was a nice
Oh,
surprise
Bouchard
this
should be,
year,
sorry.
right? Like he's
Yeah.
been playing really well. The bottom pairing of like defensemen are just brutal for your team, though. Like it's just like every
they have
single
been.
person you plug in there is ridiculous. And then like I was very happy with bringing Fogle. I thought he would really be good for the team. Derek Ryan, I thought he'd be a good pickup, and they just haven't really worked that well, unfortunately. And like I can't really blame Holland for that, because you look at, I mean, you kind of knew Derek Ryan was probably better as like a fourth line center, but you never knew, right? Like try him. Like he did well for Calgary as the fourth line center, see what he can do as a third line center, and just unfortunately didn't really work out there. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, we were going to talk a little bit about Team Canada, and there's been a lot of Team Canada stuff in the news lately. World Juniors being canceled kind of took away one of the more brighter spots over the holidays for people. And more recently, it does like almost 190% sound like the NHL is not going. In fact, I'm pretty sure they're not going no matter what. Yeah. But we did have some decisions and some debate about Team Canada and who should be on the roster and who shouldn't be before we simulate our team losing to Team USA. So Ryan, I think I was to shout to you for this one. So I'm going to shout to you for this one, and I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, sounds good. So, I mean,
drive your car.
The whole reason we came up with this is because I was sulking. I've said for the past couple episodes how disappointed I was. The NHL is not going to the Olympics. I was really looking forward to it. And I just all of a sudden decided, you know what? Screw it. I'm somehow going to have NHL Olympic hockey no matter what. So what we've done is I reached out to you guys. Thanks for agreeing to do this. I thought it'd be kind of fun to do. I had everyone submit me who they thought would be on Team Canada or who should be on Team Canada. And I've compiled those numbers. We're going to have some debates as to some open spots that we weren't quite in agreement on. And then we're going to have our official Team Canada. And this is the Team Canada. And then what we're going to do next week is we'll sim it on NHL 22 and see how they do. So first off, obviously, there's the three players that were already announced for Team Canada. So we'll just get those through right now.
Who are they?
Obviously, McDavid, Crosby, and Pietrangelo. They're in there.
Third line center, hey? Wow.
All right. Just 1 second here. So,
oh my God, we're off to a bad start. Third line center.
What
Oh,
did he
Jesus.
do to deserve that?
Pilon, did
All right.
Matthews get his Canadian citizenship?
I didn't realize that Crosby single-handedly beat the Leafs in a playoff round, and you've demoted him for that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I have the line set up because most of us, minus Sanjay, submitted our suggested lines. And so there was actually some similarities in that as well. So I wasn't the only one who had Crosby as my third line center. I think Baron, you did too. So that's why
I can't even remember, actually. I got to double check this.
So we had
I did have him as third line center.
Yeah, and so did I. So that's why he's there. So we had 6 other players that made it to all of our rosters, or 6 other forwards. We'll do forwards first. So 6 other forwards that made it on all of our rosters. Jonathan Huberdeau, Mark Stone, Nathan McKinnon, Brayden
Stone
Point,
on the top line.
Brad Marchand, and Patrice Bergeron. Actually, you know what? The Athletic just did a article similar to this where they said, okay, well, here's who we had, and they had Stone on the top line beside McDavid as well. Actually, their lineups were very close to what we have. So, we should all be hired by the Athletic. Okay. Next, we had 3 players who received 3 votes each. So they made it to almost all the teams. Steven Stamkos, John Tavares, and Ryan O'Reilly. So there's our starters. Our starting lineup is already done. We were pretty much in agreement on all of these guys. So
I think I had him as an extra.
So the extras are kind of where we got into more of a debate. We do have the 13th forward already named. He was on half the team. So you got 2 votes. Mangiapane.
Yay. Yep. I'm going to put him on the back of this jersey now. It's legit.
So
you're wearing a jersey? I thought you were wearing a oh, you are wearing a jersey.
Yeah, it's wearing the Canada.
I thought you were just wearing a robe.
It's very official. Remember the
All right.
So
that leaves 1 spot. So the only debate we have for the forwards is who's going to be our 14th forward. Okay. All right. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to give each of you a chance to make your points as to why the player you had on your roster who's not on this roster should be on the team. All right. So let me see who I'm going to start with here. All right, Sanjay, we're going to start with you.
Okay.
Explain to us why you had Matt Duchene on your Team Canada and why we should have him on ours.
Absolutely. Judging by those laughters, I got to convince more than a few people.
Please make our teams play each other so that my team can just pummel Sanjay's team as the computer puts Duchene as the top line center and they just get caved in.
The quality forward having a bounce back season. You know, he plays in Nashville, and the phrase Tennessee tough isn't just a phrase, it's a way of life. So he plays hockey the right way. He plays forward, he plays defense, and he's having a really good season. Also, he won an Olympic gold medal in Sochi. So he's been there, he's done that. He knows what it takes to win gold. And he's going to be the 14th, 15th forward. So he probably won't see any ice time, but if he does, you know he's not going to hurt you. You know, like if you're counting on Matt Duchene to put up goals with all this talent and offense, something's gone horribly wrong. Also, he's won Olympic championship, or he's won, Olympic gold. He's won the World Cup. So he was on Team Canada that won gold there, and he won World Championship and Olympic gold. And he's won everything. So this guy's a winner. I think he definitely deserves to be on there. And 100%. Bring him on.
I'll sell
Nice
you my
job,
Matt
Sanjay.
Duchene
That was
signed puck.
a
I'll
good
sell
sell.
it.
Thank
you.
I
You did
know
well.
you'll buy it.
All
Very
right.
nice.
So, the good job, Sanjay. I like the points you made.
Gross.
Next up is Adam. You had Ryan Getzlaf on your team. So why do you think he should make the final cut?
Unfortunately,
Oh,
Ryan Getzlaf
shit.
can't make the camp. He can't make it. He called it in. I took the call and I said, you know what? You're replaceable. And here's who I'm going to replace you with. It's Nazem Kadri, 5th in the NHL in scoring. He's a good Canadian boy. He's got 12 goals, 32 assists this year. He's plus 11, only 34 penalty minutes with 88 shots on goal. The man's a horse. He's producing at over a point a game this year. And if you need a timely hit with a good player knocked out for the rest of the tournament, he's your man. He's expendable. Bring Nazem in. He's going to crush it. Having a hell of a year. And you know what? He makes his teams competitive. He makes them great. He pushes them with that edge that they need.
Until he gets suspended and knocked out.
Well,
of the
you know
tournament,
what?
but-
And then we've got Mangiapane.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Well, that was a curveball.
Yeah.
Throw my way. You told me you were going to have a curveball. So there you go.
That was a good
Gave up
curveball,
on
though.
Getzlaf. All right. Baron, you actually had 2 players that haven't been listed here. So I'm going to let you decide which one of those 2 you want to make a pitch for.
So part of mine had to do with the fact that my 4th line was set up a little bit different than your 4th line. My 4th line consisted of O'Reilly as the center on that one and Couturier with Stone as a shutdown line, essentially. And in this case, Couturier didn't make the team and Mangiapane made the team. And my 13th forward option was Matt Barzal. I thought of this a little bit different than how you guys approached it, but I actually thought which one's more likely to be on it. And my actual feelings are towards it is that Matt Barzal seems more likely to be on it based on the fact that, one, his coach, who works with him a ton, is part of the coaching group, or originally was supposed to be part of the coaching group. But I also think Matt Barzal is a guy you can plug into a lot of different areas on this team. If you look at it defensively, there's lots of different guys that can be moved around for defensive play, whether that's Bergeron, O'Reilly, Tavares, Marchand. All these guys have different experience, Stone, and in different spots. Whereas pure goal scoring sometimes becomes a little bit tougher to kind of work around. So I figure Matt Barzal actually makes the most sense in this because O'Reilly's better than Couturier when it comes to shutdown, and Barzal gives you a lot of dynamic offense and speed and play. And I think the guy could just really wheel with some of these other guys around him. So that would be my pitch for Matt Barzal.
Perfect. Thanks there, Baron. All right. So last player, I'm going
Good
to pitch.
job, Sanjay. Good job, Adam. Thanks, Baron.
Thank you, Baron. That
Been
was
there, done
well
that.
done. Very, very good.
Sanjay, I'll sell you that Matt Duchene signed Team Canada puck because I know you love him so much.
I'll give you this pen for it.
Yeah, no.
Well,
God,
but
I'll just tell your
the
brother to
stock
steal
for
one of your
Duchesne has
jerseys.
really gone down. If you're not going to go for that jersey there, Sanjay, I don't believe you anymore.
yeah, I know.
Puck signed.
All right, so
puck.
I'm going to pitch David Perron. And the reason I'm going to pitch David Perron is this. He's really blossomed into his 30s. He didn't really start out as an all-star, but he actually made the all-star team a couple years ago. And he just aged like a fine wine. He's playing his best hockey of his life right now. Actually, in the last 2 seasons, he has 78 points in 81 games, so almost a point per game pace. 25th best in the league, actually. And that's a better pace than all the guys that you suggested. So, I mean, if you're looking for point production, you can't really argue that he's the best option for that spot. Second, I'd say he's a proven winner, and you want proven winners on the team. He played a major part in the St. Louis Blues winning the Stanley Cup. And the year prior to that, he played a major part for the Vegas Golden Knights making it to the Stanley Cup. So he's a proven winner. Championship pedigree is huge when you're building a winner, and he definitely has it. And then lastly, I find with tournaments like this, it's really nice if you already have pre-established chemistry on the team. The team doesn't really have a lot of time to gel. So if you can have guys who already have proven chemistry together, that's great. And he already has that with O'Reilly. They play on the same line together for St. Louis. And, so if someone got injured, you could easily slot him in beside O'Reilly and they'll have instant chemistry. And that would be huge for Team Canada as well. And so that is why I believe David Perron should be named. So there you go.
I feel like Nazem Kadri and Nathan McKinnon have a good chemistry.
They don't.
Too.
Well, they don't play on the same line.
Shut up and
all.
let me talk. They like a good sip of scotch after each game and a cigarello as well on the drive.
You already
home.
had your turn. All right. So what you're doing is you're going to write down the name of the guy who thinks should get the 14th spot. You cannot write down the name for the guy that you just made a pitch for.
Oh, well,
there has to be one of the other three.
Okay. How do you spell Duchesne? No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
Okay. Everyone ready?
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hold them up. I got Kadri, Perron, and Perron.
Oh,
Wow. Okay, so the tiebreaker is who is the highest in NHL 22. Now, because you threw a curveball at me, Adam, I don't have Kadri's NHL 22 rating. Can someone?
Not a good host. Not a good
You
host.
should have had everyone's ready.
He didn't have Kadri. It's supposed to be
Okay,
Getzlaff he was arguing for.
Well,
85.
I'm so glad I don't have to edit this episode.
It's an 85.
He's
85.
85.
Yeah.
All right. So then the winner is David Perron with 86. So
Wow.
Perron is our 14th forward.
Good for him.
So there we go. So we got our forwards. Moving on to defense. So we had 3 D-men we all agreed on. Aaron Ekblad, Cale Makar, and Shea Theodore.
And Pietrangelo.
And then Dougie Hamilton received 3 votes, so he's also in. So
Damn.
that leaves 3 players that were going to be open for debate. Now, it turns out there were 3 players who actually received 2 votes each. So all 3 will be making our team. So what we're going to be trying to decide is who
Last
makes
spot.
the starter. Yeah, who's going to be the starting top 6, and then which 2 are going to be the extras. And it turns out those 3 players were not on my Team Canada. So what's going to be happening is you 3 are going to be trying to convince me for my vote.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to start with Adam. And Adam, you are going to try to convince me why Morgan Rielly should be in that spot, other
He's
than
gonna pick
obviously him
him.
playing for
Yeah.
the best team on the planet. So
The Leafs. Oh, the
go
Leafs fan gets to
ahead
pick.
and
Okay,
really
great.
try to convince me for Morgan Rielly.
Number 1, played for the Moose Jaw Warriors in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. He's a real team player, loves to rag the puck, as they say. And sorry, I'm trying to get to Pierre Maguire here. He knows how to run a power play really well. I know that a lot of these guys do, and you've got probably your power play starter with Cale Makar, but Morgan Rielly has been solid this year. He's got 33 games played. He's got 28 points, 4 goals, 24 assists. Like, there's not a lack of obviously shooting on net because he's creating and generating opportunities for the puck to be tipped in. And he's a leader. He knows how to, be a voice on the bench and in the locker room. We saw that in the Amazon series All or Nothing, where the Leafs got nothing.
And what would you say to someone who says he's good offensively, but not a good enough defensive defenseman?
Say that's correct.
I would say, yeah, that's a very good assessment. And, what you're willing to give up in the defensive zone, he will make up in the offensive zone, at least once a game. And he's going to generate chances. But, that's the nature of the defensive position and having an offensive defenseman in your lineup.
Perfect. Thanks, Adam. All right, Baron, Darnell Nurse.
Okay. My pitch for Darnell Nurse covers a couple different things here. First, he's actually legitimately a left defenseman, which is the spot that needs to be filled in on this team. Number two, you look at this roster right now, certain things are already filled out. You have a ton of guys who, as Adam pointed out, are power play guys. Dougie Hamilton, Cale Makar, Ekblad, Pietrangelo are all guys who make heavy time on that power play. But what isn't necessarily seen here is someone who can play in all ends of this. Darnell Nurse is a guy who can play on your power play if you need him. And on this team, he ain't going to touch the power play, but he is a PK guy as well. He logs tons of minutes. Usually he leads the Edmonton Oilers in ice time for the amount of time he plays. He plays sometimes up to 30 minutes a night. There's a guy you can have who will play your PK, who can play in defensive situations. He's also one of the best puck transitioners and skating the puck out of the zone. Most of these guys are straight up passers, but he's a guy who can carry the puck into the zone. And that's another element that you have not seen with this group. So I think he fills a bunch of the voids that the other ones don't. He's complementary to them. He's used to playing with high-end talent. He is legitimately a freak when it comes to like working out. Like we were all talking about Rod the Bod. Darnell Nurse is that guy. He is in tremendous shape. He can play. Like he came out of COVID and was like, yeah, no, I'm good for another 20 minutes. And he plays full shifts. So I think he's a guy who fills just different needs that need to be on this roster for complementary reasons. He's your PK guy. He can play tough minutes. He can log long time. If someone's injured, he's up there. He can fill in spots he's never going to get a chance to. And he's used to playing with that elite superstar talent. So I think for all those reasons, Darnell Nurse is someone that should be considered for Team Canada.
Now, one complaint I've heard about Darnell Nurse, at least online, is kind of similar to Morgan Rielly. A lot of people say he's offensive only. What do you think about that?
I would say if you look at his numbers this year, you wouldn't think of him as an offensive defenseman. So he signed the big contract moving in, but he's not produced the goals this year that he did last year. Last year, he was scoring all the time. He hasn't done that so far. So I'm not saying it's necessarily like a change in his game, because I don't think it's that. I think he's slumping a little bit when it comes to shooting the pill, as all the Oilers are, or been a bit unlucky. But if you look at this team, that's not necessarily where he's going to be needed. He's going to be needed to battle and battle hard. And I think that's where he'll roll in.
Perfect. Thanks, Baron. And then Sunjay, last but not least, the veteran Drew Doughty. What do you have to say about him?
Well,
more like Pooh Doughty.
Sorry, I could not hear you. I had my one Stanley Cup ring. Actually, no, he has more than one.
Yes,
two Stanley Cup rings. Plugging my ear. So Drew Doughty, out of those defensemen you mentioned, he's the only one that's won a Stanley Cup. That's a big selling point. Two, he hates Matthew Tkachuk, and he plays his best games against Matthew Tkachuk. Now, Team USA is going to be a big rival for Team Canada. You want someone that legitimately hates Matthew Tkachuk, who's going to be a big star for Team USA. So you put Drew Doughty. He always plays his best against the Flames. He's going to be giving it 100%. He's going to dial back the clock, because he always seems to do that against us. Everyone else in the league, but against us, he gives us 110%. So he'll be doing that in the gold medal game against the Americans. That's why you take Drew Doughty.
Now, what about him being right-handed?
He can switch. He's ambidextrous. Yeah.
All right. All excellent points. Now I get the final decision.
Oh,
Do I go with my heart on this one? You know who I'm actually going to go with? I'm going to go with Darnell Nurse.
Yes,
I'm
that's
going to take Darnell Nurse.
Mispronounced Doughty.
I had him on my roster.
Doughty.
I like Doughty. I think he's had a good year. I just think you want him on the right side if he's playing, and I don't think he's as good as he used to be. And Morgan Rielly, if he's not going to play, if Morgan Rielly's not going to play on the power play, I just don't know why you have him on the team. I love Morgan Rielly, and he's actually had a really good season.
yes, he has.
Better defensively than he has been in a long time, but he still cops up the puck a ton. Whereas Darnell Nurse I think it's just a little more defensively sound. So I'll go with Darnell Nurse. I think Baron, you also made some very good points about him carrying the puck out of the zone. That was really awesome. I like that. So there you go. So Darnell Nurse is in the top 6. Morgan Riley and Drew Doughty are our extras. All right. Last but not least, goaltending. So we all had Marc-Andre Fleury as our starter. Ooh. So that leaves question marks for backup and extra. Now, I was going to have us all go through a debate, but like it is getting long. So maybe I should just say who the 3 goaltenders are, and maybe we can just have a quick discussion, decide. You want to do that instead? Save some time. All right. So the 3 goaltenders who each received 2 was Jordan Binnington, Tristan Jarry, and Carter Hart.
I'm going to say Carter Hart. He's going to be the backup, and you got to look to the future. Marc-Andre Fleury, this is his last international tournament. This might be his last year in the NHL. So Carter Hart, you got to give him that experience. It's kind of like Brodeur in 98, being alongside Patrick Waugh, or Luongo alongside Brodeur in World Cup in 04, and then he won the gold in 2010. So that's my reasoning for Hart.
Well, and Carter Hart is having a fantastic season. He had a terrible season last season. This year he's doing really, really well.
His team isn't.
No, his team isn't, but his goals saved above expected are tops him on the league. No, not tops, but he's up there. The one thing, like I would have had Tristan Jarry, and this is one thing I'm curious what you guys think. So I kind of mentioned that online, and there were numerous people that told me Tristan Jarry wasn't on the lawn list for the Olympics, so he wouldn't actually be able to make Team Canada anyways. Now, that wasn't confirmed, but I heard from enough people saying that I'm thinking maybe it's true. I don't know how legit we want to be, but I mean, if we want to make it simple and say, okay, he wasn't on the lawn list, he can't play, then we're down to Binnington and Hart for backup.
Well, I think Binnington's an automatic. Like the GM is the St. Louis GM. He's having a good season. He's arguably right now one of the best Canadian goaltenders out there, whether you like him or not. And I don't particularly do. You can't ignore the fact that he has definitely played his way onto this team. So I think Binnington's a lock. Tristan Jarry, if we just throw the scenario out, he has had a bounce back season as well. Mm-hmm. But his team's winning. And I do think that carrying winning into a season is into something like this is a little more helpful. As Sanjay pointed out with Matt Duchene, Matt Duchene's a winner. Well, then I honestly, like, as much as I like Carter Hart's probably going to have another Olympics down the road. Same with Tristan Jarry, but I feel like Jarry's kind of done a little bit more here to kind of step in front of that and earn that. So that's why I think
I had Jarry.
That's my thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even last year, Baron, when you look at his regular season stats, they were actually really good. Like he had a really bad start to the season, and then he turned it on last season and then had a bad playoffs. But his numbers for the past 2 years are better than Binnington's and Hart's combined 2 years. So he's had a bit more consistency there. But like I said, if he's not on the list, like if he's not even eligible, that's the question. Like, do we care about that or not?
I don't think we do. It's all hypothetical anyways. None of these guys are going to suit up together.
Adam, you haven't said anything. Who are you thinking?
This guy's just reading his phone.
Mike Smith.
Every team needs a competitive spaz, and Binnington's that guy. You need someone who's gonna, flip a switch and try to take someone's head off with a goalie's stick. He's a proven winner. He's won the cup. I think he'd be a great backup to Fleury. And I think Fleury's personality would, complement Binnington's non-personality.
Okay, well, it sounds like Binnington's basically gotten half the votes for that backup spot.
Yeah.
Are we good with going Binnington there? And then we can debate either Hart or Jarry for that third spot.
Yeah, I mean, the third spot won't see any ice time. So who?
All right, well, why don't we just write down either Hart or Jarry, and then
for the last spot,
for that last spot, and we'll go Binnington backup because it just seemed like there was enough talk about Binnington there.
Yeah, that works for me.
All right, 1 on 3, 2, 1. Hart, Jarry, Sanjay. What the hell, man? It's time's up.
Pardon me.
I can't even read that.
Yeah, what is
Hart.
it? Hart? Okay, so there we go.
Whatever. My defenseman made it.
Brett Hart should be the third goalie.
All right, so Fleury, then Binnington, and Hart. So there you go. There's our team. What do you guys think?
Gold medal.
Pretty good.
I like my third line better. I think Stone should be on the fourth line. Point should be up there with McDavid. Marner should be on the second line. Third line's what I had.
I'll say the one guy missing that I had on my defense, I'm disappointed no one else had, was Devon Taves. I think Devon Taves should have gotten some more love. He is.
Why are you saying it like it's one word?
It's Devon
Devon
Taves.
Taves, not Devon Taves.
It's not
Or
Devon Taves. It's Devon
or,
Taves.
Or why not saying it Devon and then Taves? You're saying Devon Taves.
Devon Taves.
Sounds nice.
Right below.
It sounds like
Right
you're
below.
saying that. Hey kids, that's Devontae's.
But he's had an amazing season. Last night, when they were playing the Leafs, the announcers were saying he's leading the league for defenseman plus minus, and they said points per game. I didn't look.
And he
to see
only
that's
cost
true.
2 second-round picks, which is like legitimately a rob. Like what a great grab.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, like insane. And then you would have had that chemistry with McCarr. Like that's.
Yeah, that's
I'm
not
disappointed Taves is on the team. I'll just say that. But otherwise, I think this team's pretty damn solid. So.
He's not on the long list, so I wouldn't have made the team anyways.
All right. So then what we'll do, Adam and I, we're going to plug in these players, and then we're going to plug in the rest of the rosters according to the Athletics predictions. And then we'll do a sim next week and see who wins the gold medal. And that will
Sounds
be
good.
the official Olympics, not the actual Olympics coming up. Our Olympics will be the real one.
Be careful, you don't want to get sued by the IOC.
We have to call up Winter Games. It's our Winter Games competition, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Thanks for doing
All
that,
right, well-
guys. I had fun.
No, that was good. That was really enjoyable.
Well, as long as you had fun. I
Yeah.
mean, for me, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Sanjay came ill. He's surviving for this.
You know what? I'm just glad Nazem Kadri was, fought for a spot.
Came out of nowhere.
Did anybody Sanjay pick make the team?
Duchesne, no. The goaltenders, yes.
Okay.
Who's your defenseman against Sanjay? It was
Dowdy. I guess he made the team
Dowdy.
anyways.
Yeah, they made the team. So yeah.
All right. Well, this wraps up this really long episode of Delayed Offside, but also really fun. So hopefully we get up to our highest viewers yet. But I mean, last one's kind of owned it, so I doubt we'll hit that one. But hopefully we do. Anyways, much love. Thanks for listening. With that, I'm Baron.
I'm Adam.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Sanjay.
Thank you for listening to Delayed Offside. Thank you for listening to Delayed Offside. Like, click,
It's been
subscribe.
too long. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your tongue's
it up
getting
throughout
numb.
the video. Yeah, exactly.
Subscribe.
All right. Take care.
Delayed Offside.